Travel and Things, in association with Rugged Wear, Real People, Real Clothing, Real Solutions, presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and today I'm chatting to Ashley Lambert from Cape Vulture Lodge, which is a brand new lodge that has just opened outside of Hoedspruit. Ashley, good morning. Welcome to you.
Oh, good morning, David. Thank you for inviting me for this chat.
It's only a pleasure. Now, I'm sitting in a freezing cold Johannesburg. Just before we've come to air, you've taken me outside of where you are. You're in the Austrian Alps. It looks like a chocolate box. I swear that's just green screen outside where you're sitting, Ashley.
I wish that was true, but I am in the Austrian Alps. So I do have a residency in Austria for the last 15 years.
Right.
So I do share my time between, or most of my time between Europe and South Africa at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm now in Europe just on a marketing trip now.
Okay, fair enough. So tell us a little bit about Cape Vulture Lodge. It's a brand new lodge. I've spent time there with my wife. It is unbelievably beautiful. And although you market it as a tented camp, those tents are as far from tents as you can get.
All right, thank you, David. So the idea of Cape Vulture Lodge came together with my partners, Violanta and Werner, who are the Swiss partners of mine. And they had the idea of finding a piece of land to protect in Africa. Werner himself is very passionate about trees and plants, and Violanta's passionate about education. So the idea, the three of us came together, we decided we would find a piece of land somewhere in Africa where we could basically start off as an idea just of planting trees. And the planting trees expanded to what we have now is 1,800 hectares, which is about 26 kilometers outside of Hoedspruit. And yeah, we actually protecting a colony of vultures. And, for 20, 30 years ago, that was recognized as a heritage site because of the vultures.
Right.
So that's what basically attracted us to the piece of land. And then the idea grew from there, which started off as a simple, quick idea, has now become kind of an exploded vision which we have. And yeah, our key focuses basically are conservation, education, and employment.
Okay, so let's unpack those three. So conservation, you conservating. My English this morning, it's cold. You're conserving the land, the trees, the vultures. What else are you hoping to conserve?
Okay, so I mean, in a broader sense, conservation is very big. So we looked at what's happening now with the world today. And one of our biggest problems is climate change. And from climate change comes a whole lot of problems. Yeah. So not only your flora, your fauna, we've also talking about food security. So we went into this idea, which I started off in Zambia at another lodge of mine. And we went into this idea of having conservation mixed in with land management and securing food security for the future. So the whole conservation we started on this property, Cape Vulture Conservancy, is to do with conserving the trees, the plants, the animals, but also now looking at future options of growing food in a holistic way. So this is where our Permaculture project started. So we started off with a big Permaculture project on the property, which in a short sense, I won't go into detail. It's basically growing food holistically and managing the land. So without chemicals, watching the way you use your water. It's a very long process, but we're starting to see results. You visited our gardens. I'm sure you had a look and seen what we're producing at the moment.
It was almost overwhelming because we will walk down rows and rows and rows of beautiful vegetables and plants and all sorts of stuff. And considering that property has only been there for a relatively short space of time, you've had great results. and hopefully going into the future with the local communities, you'll be able to supply not only them, but people within the Hoedspruit area with food.
Definitely. Well, the concept of permaculture, it's not a new concept. I mean, if you go back to grassroots, our forefathers did that, planted everything amongst the land, and we didn't actually clear everything. But we encountered a lot of problems when we first started, because we did analysis and the soil was 80% sand. So the first 6 months to 8 months of the process was just regenerating the sand. That takes a lot of, we went into systems of mulching and composting, and so just to get the soil to a level where you can actually start planting. And the idea with the lodge and the food and the community is, provide the food, the lodge with healthy food. So from garden to table, basically. The further on to that, we want to also, do medicinal products from the garden. Basically, also the whole lodge will be catered with, from mosquito repellents all the way to sun cream, if we can manage soaps. So everything that we want to do with our eco lodge is provided from the permaculture gardens. I use the word eco because, a lot of lodges use the name eco lodge.
You beat me to it. I was about to say, you just tossed eco in there. So,
sorry.
Tell me,
sorry.
No, it's fine. Tell me what makes your lodge eco-friendly, or an eco lodge.
Okay. So my partners and I, we've both traveled a lot, and I've been to many accommodations, and I've also been to eco accommodations, and people label themselves eco because, they have a solar panel and, you're using solar in the rooms. But eco is, it's not just a concept. It's you've got to live eco. You've got to, your daily life has to be divided into what can we do that's green and what can't we do. And that's the concept of our lodge. So we 100% solar. Okay, we recycle all our water, which not for drinking purposes, but all the water that gets used at the lodge gets recycled and used somewhere else. Also, we're trying to go green, which means all the products are non-chemical based. So we source only eco products. What does that mean? There's no alcohol inside, there's no chemicals, because you can't put that into a system and recycle it anyway. Yeah. Okay, and then comes into the food part. So all the food we want to be locally sourced. So our gardens are not yet at the stage where they can provide 100% all the food for the lodge. But we are aiming that in the future will be that all the food from the lodge will be from the gardens. Ethically planted, holistically managed. And then we also focusing on recycling. It's not so big in South Africa. It's something that it's still a big factor, because, okay, you start the recycling process, but then where do you send all the rubbish?
Yeah.
So this is still one of the things which we are teaching our staff. We're going to go into biogases, which will be used to heat up elements within the lodge from food waste. At the moment, the food waste does go into our composting. We've got a good composting system. And then the plastics, tins, we're trying to reduce all that usage of plastic, because plastic, as you see in Africa, it's one of our biggest, our biggest problems. We have all this beautiful space, and everywhere you go, you see plastic,
Ash, there was I don't know whether it's an urban legend or whether it's true, but somebody walked into a large supermarket here in Johannesburg, did their shopping, and when they checked out, as each item was checked, they unwrapped it from the plastic and transferred it into their own containers. And then said to the checkout people, this plastic is yours. I'm not taking it. You can have it. Do what you want with it. And the manager was a bit thrown. And the person concerned said, no. I don't want to take this out of here. You guys should learn to use less plastic. You don't have to triple wrap everything. You sometimes have to fight to get a lettuce out of a container.
Well, this is it. I mean, as you know, and this is where the permaculture is great, because it teaches us, how things were naturally. And in Europe, it's going, I won't say it's 100% moving, but the recycling household products, you have your bins separated in your house anyway. So you got your plastic, your paper, and then you have your bio, which is all your food stuff. And that's what we need to start doing at home, first of all, in South Africa. But there comes the challenges. Okay, now you've separated all the plastic, but then where do you take it? Yeah, so there are a lot of challenges. So part of the going back to the eco, part of it is that we want to also set up a whole recycling center within the community.
Okay.
Because you can't just say to the community, look, your community is dirty. Why aren't you guys picking the plastic? They have nowhere to send it to.
Yeah.
So the whole eco thing, it's very difficult to say a lodge is 100% eco, but our philosophy, we would like to be 100% eco.
Okay.
What does that mean? Yeah, we're gonna
see down the road
as we go. Yeah.
Now, I did allude to your tents. Now, people of my generation, when you say tent, they think of those terrible green canvas things that you can't stand up in. You have to crawl in through an opening on your hands and knees.
Yeah.
It smells of wet canvas. When it rains in. You can't have the windows open, all of that sort of thing. Your tents are anything but. I mean, you wouldn't know they were tents unless you hit the side of the wall.
Thank you. Yes, the idea of, in the last 10 years came that word glamping.
Yes.
So glamorous camping is what they call it. I don't like to use that word, so I still prefer to just call it a safari tent, because basically that's what it is. But we've just moved on, and over time, the products that are available out there, I mean, you could build yourself a castle with a tent. So the idea is that we try to keep that classic African feel, because when people come to Africa, they do have that idea of camping and being in the wild. And if you put them in a house, you don't get to hear the noises at night, and this is the tent gives you that feeling of being outside in a beautiful environment where you can hear the animals at night. You can hear the owls, the birds, what's crawling underneath. Some people like it, some people don't, but you do get that closer feeling of being out in the bush, let's put it that way. So that's why we stuck with the safari tents. It would have probably been much better to go with a chalet and a thatched roof, but everywhere you go in South Africa, they use thatch, and I think, less footprint, because the tent is just built on a platform. So we're not actually disturbing much of the land. And this was also the idea. We wanted to have a smaller footprint on the land that we have used. So I'm glad you do like the tents.
I love them. I could move into one of those and live there without too much difficulty. I tell you, it was tough for your staff to get us out. We didn't want to leave.
No, I'm glad that you enjoyed them. So that was one positive. Thank you so much.
Now, aside from the tents, which are beautiful, the lodge building as well is designed so well that you've sort of got a reception that flows into a lounge, into a bar, and then into a dining area. And if people have been listening to you and I chatting about food coming out of the ground, for those carnivores amongst us, yes, there is meat on the menu if you want it, together with the vegetables that come from the land.
Definitely. So listen, I'm very passionate about food, as you can see. I love to eat, and it's not only about the vegetables, it's basically about healthy ingredients. Okay, and on our menu, we are building it up, but I do myself personally, I do have an aim where people will be like, wow, besides the tents, the food is off the chart. So that's something that I do want to, as a goal, my own personal goal is that the food from the lodge will be outstanding. And then going back to the lodge, the whole, I also think the philosophy of having an eco lodge, you don't have to have an over the top lodge. Okay? You don't have to have every room filled with ornaments and African thing. You already are in Africa, so this is why, I won't take all of the credit. Our designers were very good in that, but that's why there's a lot of big open spaces in the front of the lodge. So you have the feeling that you are part of nature. Okay, so we decluttered it. We took away all the, hundreds and hundreds of posters and pictures, and which when you do go to some of the top lodges, you do find that, you know, I feel like sometimes you're like in a shopping mall or a shopping, you know, because there's so much stuff to look at. You forget about actually being in nature.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it simple, a lot of open space so that people feel the space without cluttering everything. And there's enough of a view to anyway look outside instead of being distracted with the view inside.
Now, talking about the view outside, is there going to be at some stage access to where the vultures are roosting? Can you get up there? I mean, it's glorious being able to sit on the deck and with a pair of binoculars watch the vultures catching thermals. But it would be nice to get a little closer to them, perhaps, so that, you know, people, because people tend to see vultures in the same category as hyenas, that they're just there to scavenge. But without hyenas, and specifically without vultures, the land would be littered with carcasses that are never taken away.
The vultures are a key component to conservation and to the landscape within the Kruger to Canyons biosphere. Going back to your question, can you actually go close enough? We do have 2 or 3 viewing points on the property where you can actually drive up to about, I would say, maybe 200 to 300 meters from the cliffs. And there you can look with the binoculars and with a telescope. But in the future, what we are planning in the next few months, we are going to be putting up a vulture restaurant on the property. What does that mean? People think, oh, we're going to sit there and eat food and watch the thing. Actually, you know, it's just, I say ethical, unethical, we're not too sure, but we will provide a carcass once or twice a week on the property, somewhere where the vultures can actually come down and eat the carcass. And that is a way of also using that as part of education for people. So when we do have guests, they can actually have a look and say, okay, because a lot of people have never seen a vulture up close. I mean, the bird is bigger than your average dog and weighs about 30 kilos. So it is a massive bird. So we are having a plan where people in the future can come to the Conservancy and see the vultures during the feeding time. We will do it ethically in a way that the vultures still have other food to go to, because we don't want to be their only source of food. It will just be a once a week or every second week kind of thing. And people can come and photograph or have a look at actually what the vulture is. And then also on educational purposes, we'll use that with the schools and the local community, because there is a lot of negative connotations related to vultures and what vultures are. So I think our educational side of our philosophy is important, that people understand what a vulture is and its purpose.
All right. Now, aside from the nature side of things, I know that your lodge manager is very keen on, I was going to say, running, jumping, and not standing still. So I know there are going to be mountain bike trails and some running trails, which in part of the area that I've been on the property, I think will work really, really well.
Yeah. So our long-term plans, you know, we are not going to be a typical safari lodge. Yes, we do have a lot of animals on the property, but our focus is that people get closer to nature. Right. And this is the key. We're not going to drive around in a safari vehicle all day, because that's not what our property is. So we're going to get people out a lot on foot. We've designed quite a lot of hikes around the property. So our property starts roughly at about 380 meters above sea level and ends, I think it's about 1,600 meters above sea level.
It's a nice climb, that.
The incline is there. So what we are doing, and we are in the process, the farm is divided into two. Basically, the property is divided into 2 farms. So the Manutsa farm at the top, where the vultures are, that is going to be, or we're hoping that will be declared as a reserve. Okay. And then the bottom part where the permaculture and all is, that's where we'll do a lot of the activities for the local community and for the locals, and also international. So mountain biking, hiking, a lot of sporting things to invite the local people actually to get out of nature and to enjoy your time out in nature. We don't have any predators on the property. There has been a few leopards, but that doesn't mean you can't go out and still enjoy
Yeah.
the natural environment that we have.
Ashley, for people who are watching this and going, tell us how we can find out more about it. How do they make contact? What's your web details or your booking details?
Okay, so we're gonna have two websites basically up and running. We have one which is running at the moment, which is only for the lodge. So that's www.capevulturelodge.co.za. That's our lodge. So on there you can book rooms on there. You can email us about any questions you have about the lodge. And our email address for that is reservations@capevulturelodge.co.za.
Great. Reservations with an S, people.
With an S at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the next few weeks, we are bringing out our Conservancy website, which is basically for the 1,800 hectares. And
Okay.
that on that will be basically giving you all the information about what happens on the Conservancy, from permaculture, from the vulture viewing. We also do safaris, we do sundowners, and then it'll also focus a lot on the educational part, because at our education center, we do classes for the local community. So on that Conservancy website, people will be able to have a look and see what's happening. The property is open already from Thursday until Sunday, where
Okay.
people can come in, book a tour, whether it's a permaculture tour or a conservancy tour. We also have some hikes. We have some sundowners, some vulture viewing. So people are also welcome to have a look on the Conservancy website when it does come out.
Great stuff. Ashley, thank you so very much for joining me. I've been talking to Ashley Lambert. How do I say? One of the owners of Cape Vulture Lodge?
So I'm the director. I'm one of the shareholders and the director of
okay, so there we go.
The property. Just to make it clear, the property is owned by a trust. So it's been bought by a trust, and I'm one of the shareholders and the director of Cape Vulture Lodge.
Fair enough.
Thank you, David, for taking your time.
It's only a pleasure. It's always great to chat to somebody who's got wonderful ideas, and I look forward to, in the months, the weeks and months ahead, of seeing how your property evolves and how close you get to your end goals.
David, we will certainly invite you again for when we're in our second phase, and you're welcome to come and test out the bed again.
Ashley Lambert, thanks very much for joining me here on In Conversation With.